yes, welcome back to another video, guys. Now, that's right, today I'm back to talk about the brand new Star Wars show, Andor, because it has finally come to an end. Now, I'm not going to go through every episode of this show individually, because there was a lot. There was 12 episodes. Sometimes I do go through every episode with these Disney Plus shows, normally when it's 6, because it's easier to remember. But here, what this show done really well was it kind of had arcs to it, So I'll kind of go over those arcs. You have the starting arc where Andor's on his homeworld. Then you have, of course, the rebellion bit. Then we have the bit where he's trapped making parts for the Empire, and then we have the conclusion. So there's kind of 4 story arcs to this. So I'll kind of go through each of those, and I'm going to talk about some characters and talk about my positives to do with the show. And if I can come up with any negatives along the way, I guess I'll do that, because, man, this show was so good. But before we get started on that, I do want to do a spoiler warning. I will be going into spoilers, as I normally do with the shows. So if you haven't seen it yet, my God, you should go watch it, because... little bit of context going into this show. When it got announced, I was like, what the hell, they're doing a show about Andor coming into this year. My mind was on Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially Obi-Wan. You know me, I'm a huge Revenge of the Sith fan. And even Tales of the Jedi more, because I love the Star Wars animated stuff. And my favourite films are the original 3 films and Revenge of the Sith. But my favourite era of Star Wars is definitely that Clone Wars era. So going back and revisiting some of that, seeing like Dooku Young and stuff was something that I was so hyped for. And yeah, just seeing Ewan McGregor return to the role of Obi-Wan as well was so exciting. And, those shows come out and they were good. They were very entertaining, but they didn't blow me away like I wanted them to. But Tales of the Jedi did a bit, but, it was very short, very quick. Andor, the trailers dropped, so I was like, that looks good. Not that excited for it. I really like Rogue One. It's the best Disney film. It's a very solid movie. It's a very solid entry into the Star Wars universe. But I just wasn't that excited for the show. And then the first 3 episodes dropped at once, and holy shit, I was like, this is great. First off, I want to say how amazing this show looks. Don't get me wrong, Star Wars TV has looked really good. I thought that The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett looked fantastic. But, they're using that incredible new technology with the screen. And I believe for both those shows, they had the guy who actually made the screen there working on it with them. Whereas then you do the flip side with Kenobi, they're using the screen, but they didn't have that guy there with them. A bit like Thor, Love and Thunder, for example. And you can tell, like, Kenobi and Thor, Love and Thunder, they don't look as good as The Mandalorian, because, it's new people learning this tech as well. It's a bit like CGI, when that, or, like green screen effects, when that came about. It took people a while to get used to using it in the film industry, and that's basically what we're seeing here. This is why Thor, Love and Thunder especially didn't look great. Kenobi looked not a little bit, it looked quite a bit cheaper than Mandalorian, for example. Here they got rid of the screen, which if they got that guy there, I really love the screen technology. Again, he was there with the Batman. They used it in the Batman, and the guy who made the screen was there on set as well, which is why the Batman looks amazing. So if that guy's there, I got no problem with them using that screen, because it looks fantastic. But here they went actually out onto set locations, and you can tell, and I think it looks so much better than anything we've got lately. Marvel and Star Wars. It looks so much better than everything by a long shot. And that's also not just going by the fact they're on location, but the CGI itself looks so much better. Man, I just come out of Black Panther like a week and a half ago, and like seeing things like Ironheart and how rocky some of the CGI was in that show, and in that movie, and like there's constant bits where the CGI is bad throughout that movie. This entire 12 episode run, I didn't spot an ounce of fat on how good the CGI was. It was so good. It was so consistent. And that's what blows me away so much about this show. It is visually stunning. I love the fact they went to, actual places, like they went to a real dam for the kind of rebellion arc. The second arc, we get the big fight. They filmed all outside there, and you can tell a lot of the Coruscant shots, actually, funny enough, were filmed at the McLaren garage. You know, big Formula One fan here, so it was great seeing that, and you can just tell the care and effort that went into this. And then while we're on the subject of talking about the technical aspects of this show, the cinematography was gorgeous, especially episode 6. You know, where you have that bit where they do escape this Imperial base with some goods. Incredible. The cinematography is absolutely beautiful, and that's the highlight episode, but the rest of the show also looks gorgeous. The music, the score, especially in that last episode, fantastic. Just fantastic. Like, so good. On a technical visual aspect, this is probably the best thing we've had from Disney in a good 3 or 4 years. Honestly, it is so unbelievable. And I say unbelievable because this is kind of the level I was expecting in Kenobi. We didn't really get anywhere close to it. Don't get me wrong, I still like Kenobi. I do like it. Don't want to sound like I'm ragging on it all the time. But I really just didn't expect it from Andor, which is what's blown me away the most. And then also, the episodes were perfect, like, in terms of how many there were. The pacing was brilliant. The runtime for each episode was great. Yeah, just fantastic. So let's talk about the characters and the story. And I know that some people online have been complaining that they found the story boring. And I can see why. If you go to Star Wars just looking for lightsaber battles and something you don't have to think about much, where it's like, okay, I just want to see a sci-fi movie, I recommend The Rise of Skywalker, because that has a lot of action, a few lightsaber fights, quite a lot of action scenes. I mean, the film's stupid as hell. It makes no sense, and in my opinion, it's terrible. But this show is so intelligent. The actual plot and the dynamic behind it, you can see what's going on Coruscant. You can see how certain senators, of course, Mon Mothma, who we know from Return of the Jedi, and of course she's sprinkled into Revenge of the Sith a little bit, and then we see her in other shows like The Clone Wars and Rebels, and she pops up in a few novels. You can see how she is slowly starting to build something which could take down the Empire. And then you get to see other areas of this rebellion building through characters like Stellan Skarsgård's character, and then we also get to see Sol Guerrera again, and just seeing how this rebellion is being formed in many different areas, many different ways, and you can see how it's forming and coming together, and it is just so fascinating to watch. And then on top of that, you've got this other layer of incredible characters. Of course, we get to start off on Cassian's homeworld, and we get introduced to his mum, who's, I forget the name of the actress who plays her, but she's brilliant. I know her from Killing Eve and stuff. Fantastic. And her character story arc is so good. Her final kind of hologram speech in the last episode was beautiful, brilliant. And of course, there's Cassian's friend there as well, who, there's many reasons to like her. But, her character is a really good story arc again. And when she gets tortured in those later episodes, my God, I've never seen Star Wars go so hard and so brutal on those torture scenes. And it was really cool to see how grounded this show was and how real and brutal it made the Empire feel for once. The Empire has always just been this big threat because it is big. They've got so many troops, and they have this reign over the galaxy in Star Wars. Whereas here, it's nice to see them just actually being kind of brutal, which we haven't seen to this extent before, which was fun. And her character arc really brought that to life. And then, of course, you've got his droid, who I can't lie, I kind of fell in love with. Some of the droids in Star Wars really hit a good note with me. Obviously, you got R2-3PO. I've always been a big fan of, like, Chopper and BB-8. But then every now and then they put out a droid that's a bit what's the one from Solo? Did not like that droid at all. And you get a couple throwaway droids every now and then, like Dio, like the most forgettable droid ever. But this droid was awesome. He was so cool, and actually to have some emotion behind him was fun as well. I know that droids don't really feel emotion, but it was very cool to see in this show. And, then you've got all these other side characters, which I won't get into them all because there's a lot. But it's just very cool how the show actually connected Cassian to all these people. And not just go, he's got 2 friends and that's all you're going to see. Now we're going to go off on our adventure. It was cool to actually see this character develop with all of his friends on his homeworld, which was fantastic. And then you go into the next story arc where you do get kind of associated to a group of rebels as they try to take down this Imperial base. There's a couple characters who stick about for a while. One of them I really like. She's the sister or cousin to Mon Mothma. I've forgotten. I will be rewatching this show because I only watched every episode once as it aired. Funny enough, I remember her from a Peter Capaldi Christmas special with Doctor Who, the actress. But she was brilliant, this character. She was one of my favourites in it, actually. Really well played. And again, just seeing her getting pushed to her limits was, again, really cool. And this is what I mean. There's a lot of side characters that you meet in Star Wars and Marvel shows where you don't really have much to say about them. But here in Andor, all these kind of genuinely normal characters, normal people who have been pushed because of their drive to fight the Empire. Brilliantly written. There's so much to say about all of them, which is incredible. So, yeah, and then as you go on to the next story arc where you see Andor in an Imperial base building stuff, I come up with a very good hunch at what they were building, and you do. My hunch was confirmed in the end credit scene. Of course, building Death Star parts, which was very cool, and that end credit scene was beautiful. But again, you get to meet another load of characters there, quite a few that you get familiar with. And Andy Serkis returns to Star Wars, surprisingly, because, you know, he played Snoke. I don't think he was super happy with how his character in the sequels was killed off. But man, playing just kind of a normal guy, he's got this, you know, ambition that, you know, we do the work, we do the hard work, and we get out of here when our time's up. And in seeing him get broken was brilliant. He had some of the best scenes in this show. When that old guy they worked with died, it was heartbreaking, and you see Andy Serkis' character come to the realisation, shit, we're not getting out of here. And then the bit where he does his speech over the mic comms, just brilliant. And then, of course, the ending, heartbreaking for his character, where they get out of the base and they realise they're surrounded by water and they got to swim, and just says I can't swim, and it was genuinely heartbreaking. And it's a really cool way to end that episode, that he just got left there, so he's either back in another Imperial base building parts or he's been executed by the Empire. It is a cool way that, you know, this show doesn't feel like it needs to show you everyone die, because obviously you don't see his mum die and you don't see Andy Serkis die. But there's also a little part of me that does want to see his character again, because he was just so well written, and Andy Serkis played the hell out of it. And if he doesn't get an Emmy nomination, I'm going to be very upset. But yeah, that story arc was brilliant as well. And then moving into the final one, just seeing all these characters come together. Of course, you've got that kind of sneezy kind of look guy who works for the Empire, who crawls his way into Andor's story there at the end at the funeral, and everyone else, the Imperial officer, ISB agent who's been tracking Andor and his whereabouts, she comes into the fold here in the last episode, and it's all really well done. And of course, they actually do have one familiar character in this other than Mon Mothma, and that was Admiral Yularen, which was very, very exciting. You know, people remember him from the Clone Wars being Anakin's admiral, and he was also aboard the Death Star in A New Hope, and he's in Rebels. So that was very cool as well. But yeah, man, I gotta say, this show was just fantastic. I really don't have any negatives about it, to be honest. I loved everything about it. Sometimes the episodes would end in some weird places, like they'd zoom out and you think, oh, okay, where are they going? Oh, credits. Okay, they're not going anywhere with that scene. So maybe that would be my only complaint, honestly. Visually, stunning. The score, brilliant. The acting, incredible. The characters were so unique in this world. It was fantastic. The story itself, intelligent. Yeah, this show was so good. And I like the fact that it felt like a more adult Star Wars show, which I think was needed. Don't get me wrong. As I say, I enjoyed Kenobi. I really enjoyed Boba Fett, and I love The Mandalorian. And I love those animated shows that Star Wars do. But it was nice to have a really grounded, adult-feeling Star Wars show, you know. And you get a few swear words in there, you know. I know that some Star Wars fans don't like it when the word bastard comes up, because you know, who cares? And, you know, there was some brutal scenes in there where you see people, like, fully get the shit kicked out of them. And it was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. This is what, you know, kind of needed something like this, just to mix the universe up a bit. So, yeah, I'm thrilled with how this show turned out. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's one of the best shows of the year. It's potentially my favourite Disney Plus show. It's between that and The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian was just so... you know, that one feels more Star Warsy, and it's also really well made. But this is just on its own level of just quality. Feels like something that HBO would almost put out. And yeah, I can't express my... how much I'm relieved that this was good and how much I enjoyed it enough. So if you haven't seen Andor, or maybe, you know, you gave up after an episode, because I know some people did, I'd really recommend getting back into it and investing yourself in it, because there's so many cool things about this show that when you've watched it as a whole, I think you'll appreciate it, that this is really one of the best things that Disney Plus has had to offer, and one of the best things Star Wars has to offer in general. It's up there, it really is. So yeah, Andor, 9 out of 10, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic show. Did not think I'd be saying that at the start of this year. But anyway, there we go. That's my review for Star Wars Andor. I can't wait for Season 2. I truly can't. But thank you so much for watching as always, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message. And as always, I'll see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.